Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of This Week in Crypto Philanthropy, your source for crypto-powered change. My name is Pietro Moran, Director of Crypto here at Shift4, and I am missing my illustrious co-host, Nick, today. He unfortunately is unable to join us, but an action-packed episode nonetheless. I'm very excited to have this conversation with two very special guests today. But before we get to that, we are currently still assisting and working with some of our marquee, let's just say, nonprofit work with Team Water. So please check that out on our website. But without further ado, I really just want to jump into the conversation as I'm very excited about our two illustrious guests today. So we are joined by two incredible leaders, both at the intersection of innovation, impact, and crypto. We are joined by Jonathan Perri, who is the Director of Social Impact at Ripple, as well as Alix Guerrier, CEO of DonorsChoose. A little bit about our two guests. John has spent his career helping nonprofits embracing emerging technologies, and at Ripple, he is leading the change and charge to bring meaningful, scalable impact to communities that need it most. Most recently, Ripple has announced a $25 million pledge to support public school teachers across the country. This is a huge commitment to organizations like DonorsChoose and Teach for America, and are driving changes in the classroom every day. On to our second guest, Alix, also is no stranger to that mission that we just discussed. As CEO of DonorsChoose, he's leading one of the most trusted education nonprofits in the country, joining us from DC, and connecting donors with thousands of public school teachers seeking resources for their students. Under his leadership, DonorsChoose has continued to expand access and opportunity for students while embracing tools like crypto, one of our favorite topics here on the show, and blockchain to make that giving more inclusive. Jonathan and Alix, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having us. I'm really excited to be here.
Thank you. Yep, great to be here.
Appreciate y'all giving me a moment to talk about some of your accolades and what you're working on. So I know that we've had to get that out of the way. I'd be remiss if I didn't give a little bit of shine to what's already been happening. But I would love to just kick things off and introduce you to our audience, who is typically crypto-centric donors and organizations looking at where the rubber really meets the road. I think this episode is going to be extremely insightful because we have two sides of sort of the marketplace coming together here. Jonathan, if maybe we could start with you, can you give us a little bit of your perspective, an introduction to yourself, to Ripple, and also to the change that you're making now that you're one of sort of the leading exemplars of crypto-powered change in the industry?
Sure. I'm Jonathan Perri, and I'm the Director of Social Impact at Ripple. What that means is I manage a number of Ripple's corporate social responsibility and social impact programs. That includes our partnerships with nonprofit organizations, our philanthropic support for organizations that are local to where we have offices. We get our employees involved in volunteering and giving back to those community organizations. We match their donations, and I get to manage all of those great programs and partnerships. And we also work with global nonprofit organizations that are working to solve financial inclusion and increase access to financial services, humanitarian aid and development organizations. And a big piece of the work that we do is investing in blockchain education and research. So backing up a little bit more, Ripple is a company that provides digital asset infrastructure for financial institutions. So think cross-border payments, custody, stablecoins, basically making it easier for businesses to move money globally using crypto and blockchain. And so to date, we've processed, I think, 70 billion in payments across 90 markets. But yeah, I'm very excited to be here and talk a bit about some of the ways that we are using that technology to have a positive impact and to develop really great, long-lasting partnerships with organizations like DonorsChoose.
Amazing. You're speaking my language, talking about payments infrastructure here, from the Shift4 kind of hat that I'm wearing. But Alix, if we can pivot to you, because DonorsChoose is an organization that is on the receiving end of some of this crypto-powered change, and would love to give you a platform to not only introduce yourself, but talk about the mission and what you've been working on in light of some of these incredible pledges that you're receiving.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I know we're going to have some time in this conversation to talk about not only DonorsChoose's experience with crypto, but in particular our really inspiring relationship and partnership with Ripple, which is big this year, but actually has a long history. I'll first say a bit about what DonorsChoose is. So we are a nonprofit. We serve public school teachers across the country. The way that we do that is that any public school teacher in the country can come to DonorsChoose onto our website and essentially create a request for anything that they might need to serve their kids. That includes classroom supplies. You might think of basics like paper, pencils, that kind of stuff, but it also goes into technology. It goes into warmth, care, and hunger. It goes really anywhere that teacher deems necessary to serve the needs of the kids. We, as a nonprofit, we read every request that comes onto the site. We make sure that we know which teacher it is, where they teach, and also that we understand the benefit to the kids. And then that project is posted on the site, and we draw funding both from individual donors who just come on and choose projects, hence our name, DonorsChoose. But we also have some really incredible relationships with corporate entities, and Ripple in particular has been a really important partner to us. And a little bit unlike other crowdfunding platforms you might think of, we don't actually send cash. So when a request is met, we send the stuff itself that the teacher requested to the school. It becomes district property. It's part of our transparency model and trust building model. There's a connection there that we might delve into. And we were founded 25 years ago. So we're celebrating our 25th birthday this year.
Incredible. It actually mirrors some of the I'd say ethos of crypto insofar as sort of a decentralized DonorsChoose. I mean, it's in the name, right? I mean,
yeah,
very I would say on the money there in terms of our audience recognizing or having a touch point with y'all. Very curious because I think a lot of folks are hearing or seeing some of these announcements and watching this, I would say, massive crypto CSR social responsibility campaign unfolding from Ripple's side and saying, how does that even start? I mean, do you recall any of the earliest conversations you had, maybe even just toying with the idea of working together? What were those like? And maybe I'll start with you, Alex. Just, does that kind of fall out of the blue, or was there a lot of prep work that went into this? I think a lot of folks would gain a lot of insight from that.
Sure, absolutely. Well, I think we can tell this story from a couple of different starting points. I joined DonorsChoose about 3 years ago. When we got an email from Ripple, it sort of lit us up because Ripple actually looms quite large in DonorsChoose lore and history. So I joined in 2022, but several years ago, before I joined back in 2018, Ripple also made a really huge commitment. I mean, in that year, donating enough funds, it totaled $27 million to fund every single project on the DonorsChoose website. So every request was met and fulfilled in one surprise day, really electrifying the entire community. We called it Best School Day. That was the campaign name for obvious reasons. That story is still alive and well. And so an email came in and it sort of electrified our team. We're like, oh, wow, might we have a chance to work with them this year? And we reached out. And what I'll say is that, beyond the really clear just commitment to impact and education in particular that Ripple has had like over these years, and with this huge commitment this year with $25 million, I also think that we have a bit of a shared ethos and a shared approach when it comes to telling stories about that impact. And so I think that there is an alignment there. In fact, Jonathan and I have, and other colleagues of his, have had a chance over the last few months to be in different venues and share some of those stories. We're not just interested in tech, but we're interested in telling the stories of the classroom teachers whose lives are made better, and the students whose lives are made better through this gift.
Absolutely. Jonathan, would love to get your perspective on this as well. There's clearly this sort of thematic mission around supporting students, public school teachers, Is that something from an education perspective that Ripple's really leaning into, and that's how you found DonorsChoose? Anything on that story, I think, would be super great to hear.
Yeah, well, I mean, one of the just going back for me, one of the deciding factors for me to accept the role and join Ripple. I've been at Ripple for just about 4 years now, and when I was learning about the company, I wasn't that familiar with crypto at the time, or blockchain, but I was looking for my next company, and one that was really committed to doing good with their resources. And it was learning about that 2018 donation to DonorsChoose, which was $29 million in XRP. One of really the first major crypto donations ever made, and still one of the largest, funding every single classroom project at the time. For me, that was kind of like a light bulb moment, that this is a company that's, not just talking about doing good, but putting their resources where they can in a big and in a meaningful way. And it started to find out it's not just with the charitable donations, but it's also in that vein of education and in building and creating. It's also through the XRPL developer community support that's provided through our XRPL grants and our accelerator programs. But yeah, going back to the formation of Ripple Impact, which is what we call our social impact programming. Education was really the one of the founding pillars of this work. So back then, the team really recognized that academic research was crucial for blockchain research, like getting some of the world's best researchers and universities to really start conducting and publishing research around many different aspects of blockchain, was important to really the advancement of the industry and to diversifying roles within and opportunities within fintech. So that became the University Blockchain Research Initiative, is what we call it, and that's grown into an $80 million commitment. It's funded 60 universities worldwide to help them develop fintech courses and publish research. And so I think supporting organizations like DonorsChoose and Teach for America, which is the other partner in this $25 million donation that we made, was really kind of a natural extension of that commitment to education. And yeah, it's been since we launched this during Teacher Appreciation Week, just the impact that we've been able to create. And I think that's one of the other things we're always looking for, is partners that can really drive measurable, exciting impact. We did this during Teachers Appreciation Week this year, and we funded close to all of the projects on the platform once again. And we also got our employees closely involved in this. So I mentioned that Ripple has local community partners. We match our employee donations. We also gave them all a $100 DonorsChoose gift card, and they could go to the platform, find a school. A lot of them went to their former elementary school, or if their mom or dad is a teacher, they went and donated to those schools. And it was just this great way for us to not just make an impact for DonorsChoose and all the schools and all the teachers, but really connect our employees to the work that we do at Ripple Impact.
Amazing. I actually love the idea of being able to have that sort of localized touch point with, say, your elementary school or somewhere that had a lasting impression on you when you're growing up and in your formative education years, right? That's so incredible. It's also really interesting. I wanted to touch on one point you just made, which is I think a lot of people think of crypto as burgeoning tech. It's new. It's still a young industry, relatively speaking. But Ripple seems to have this very sophisticated and mature CSR programming and is doing, sort of a scaled impact, or maybe I would say even outsized impact relative to the cohort of other industry participants. Jonathan, really quickly, is there any secret sauce? Is there anything how have you guys done it so well and gotten these sort of landmark campaigns across the line? And then I'll pivot back to Alex, but I really wanted to just kind of press to see if there's something that maybe folks are they thinking of the industry incorrectly? Is it just that Ripple has a very strong mission and mindset towards this, or have you made such great impacts? I guess I'm curious.
Well, I mean, the industry is still young, and Ripple is relatively all things considered, a young company, right? I mean, I believe we're 12 or 13 years old at this point. And so I think our giving for even outside of crypto, for a company this size and this age, the level of philanthropy that we are doing is outsized based on that, just not even thinking about the crypto industry. And what also kind of applies to other companies, regardless of industry, and something that I talk about a lot, or that comes up a lot when other social impact managers are talking about, like, how do you develop this great social impact campaign or program? How do you get your employees involved? And I think it really does come down to having, and where we are really lucky is having that support from your leadership team and our founders, whether that's Chris Larson, who co-founded Ripple, our current CEO Brad Garlinghouse, and really all of our leadership team members are very passionate about doing good, and that's something that gives you, for any social impact manager, it gives you so much runway to build a great program.
Definitely. I'm always an admirer of folks who seem to find all of those components to do it right, especially in an industry where maybe the expectations aren't there yet, because everybody's still kind of a young tech company and just figuring out how to build the business before they can figure out how to give back. But it's just been incredible to watch the story unfold, especially now that you're on your sort of second round of making these pledges. Alex, I wanted to jump back because a lot of our listeners, our followers of the show, and folks that are curious about crypto philanthropy in general are, I think, at a traditional organization that maybe just started leveraging crypto as a touch point with new donors, or maybe they're on the fence and still listening and educating themselves. How have you found, and what's the process look like from DonorsChoose's perspective on adding crypto in as a part of a portfolio of giving? Yeah. And if you could tell us that story, I think people would definitely benefit.
Yeah, I'll say a bit about that history. But actually, if it's okay, I'll also just say a word about your prior question about Ripple's leadership in philanthropy, and it's sort of quite outsized giving from our perspective, right? From being on the partner side, receiving it. And first, let me give props where props are deserved, and say that, yeah, clearly not only is the commitment that Ripple has demonstrated of industry leader in crypto, I mean, that's sort of just objectively, numerically true. It also stands out sort of across industries, and we work with a lot of amazing partners. So I realized that we may be a bit biased here, but it really stands out just in conversations that we've had, and I've talked to other colleagues who are also, part of the leadership team at DonorsChoose back in 2018. The clarity of intention and focus on impact, just that clarity in the conversations is so salient. It really stands out, and it is a testament to the leadership, I think, at Ripple, just from an outside perspective, and the people there. But the intention was there, and in our conversations, it was just always clear, hey, we're going to do something big, and that stands out. It's not every company that has that same level of clarity. And I think I would credit that clarity as being a really important catalyst, because you asked about the journey for a nonprofit, to sort of evolve into accepting crypto. I mentioned that we're celebrating our 25th birthday this year, so that means we were founded in 2000, which is like ages ago in technology, right? Like, there are so many paradigms that have risen and fallen since 2000. The word crowdfunding wasn't even invented yet. DonorsChoose was really one of the first crowdfunding platforms before people were using that phrase even. And back in 2018, it was not trivial for our team to sort of decide to accept this gift. I mean, it was, and again, here I'll credit, I think, the intention and the clarity of focus from the Ripple side, because almost paradoxically or counterintuitively, uh, the size of the gift almost added to the bar, because to accept such a big gift and then mess it up or make some error in applying it, right? It could be really huge in a negative way for us. And it took a fair amount of work to figure it out on the financial side, just know. And also the size was unprecedented for DonorsChoose. So it wasn't just the technology, but also the size and this idea of literally funding everything. So even just our own tech was tested a bit. And so it was actually a lot of manual work, but the incentive was there. Obviously, we're glad, I mean, thrilled that we did it. This go around, it was still significant. I mean, again, it's a huge gift. We wanted to make sure that we did it right. But we could build on that foundation. And of course, the giving block really contributed quite a bit towards making it, more towards the seamless side, in terms of the tech integration.
We appreciate that shout out. Obviously, we're just the sort of like flies on the wall that just want to make sure that everything works under the hood. I mean, you all are the rock stars making things actually happen. I wanted to kind of do a fast follow for you, Alex, on one thing that I'm personally curious about, but I also think a lot of folks would be curious about as well, which is particularly that you're in education and you're working with teachers and by extension their students and fulfilling needs. I'm wondering, as somebody who's been in the crypto space for a while, at least I haven't heard stories of that becoming a more poignant or salient point within the broader education landscape. But it feels like, to me in particular, like the last couple of years, a lot more of the youth and younger generations are excited about blockchain technology or learning more, or just having access to the tools where they can now participate in this phenomenon. Is that something you're seeing as well?
Yeah, so I think your intuition is spot on there. And if there's a delay, it's not specific to crypto. In general, in the ed space, and sometimes for quite good reasons, new developments, new technologies take a while to filter in. So we are, we can talk about the industry still being young and Ripple as a company still being young, but we're super early in terms of what teachers are doing. And the way that we kind of have a measure of that is actually through what teachers are telling us and also what they're posting on the site. We have this, we serve about 90% of American schools. So every day teachers are coming on, and just through their project requests, we can sort of discern what trends are. So it's still quite early, not a lot of mention, although it's not zero. And I mean, just to add an anecdote, where there is interest, it can be quite hot. I think, Jonathan, you know this, but I was with a colleague of yours, and we were talking to a teacher who had actually been funded in person by Ripple. His project had been, and so he was excited to meet somebody from Ripple because he saw the logo on the page. But it wasn't just that he had been funded; he actually was an art teacher. He also is a tattoo artist, and he knew a lot of folks who were Ripple heads, like literally that, and pulled up like there in person on his phone the XRP logo that he had recently tattooed onto one of his friends because he really knew the company. So there are little signs that the community is active, and there's certainly not zero awareness of not just crypto in general, but even Ripple in particular.
I have not heard them called Ripple heads before, but I am going to pass that around. I think that's interesting. They're mostly known as the XRP army, the very passionate XRP community members. And
well, I can get you a photo that photo screenshot if you need it.
I don't think it's the only XRP tattoo out there. But I mean, I think there's just to add on to that too. like I said, we've got this university blockchain research initiative, and we've got universities all around the world that are experimenting with blockchain and various applications for that. I think we are seeing its adoption and teaching, at the undergraduate level and also at the high school level as well. Code.org has a great module for learning about blockchain. And actually, one of my colleagues, as part of this UBRI initiative, just wrapped up a 2-day XRPL student builder residency. So I think there was 18 undergraduate students who received some mentorship and advice on projects that they're building on the XRPL, all different use cases for blockchain, and lots of resources for helping them to learn about this. And then they were able to present those to Ripple staff and in our New York office, and get feedback on all of those really great, exciting projects. And that's one example of how I think we're starting to see this through hackathons and these types of residencies, and more of the online learning opportunities that are becoming more and more available. We're definitely starting to see blockchain become more of a common STEM, subject matter.
Definitely. It's really interesting, and I think this is a trend that is worth monitoring, which is I'd always interacted with blockchain or thought of it from an education standpoint at the university level. You hear about MIT's blockchain club, or back when I was in school, like the Michigan blockchain club was one of the earlier ones that was founded. It felt always pretty skewed towards like CS students that were already at the collegiate level. But now it's having this sort of like reverse matriculation down towards earlier education, which I think is really interesting, because those will be the aficionados of the future, right? At some point. And the earlier you grasp the technology, the more of a leg up you have in terms of further down the line or career mobility. I wanted to ask you one thing, Jonathan, because Alex alluded to the technology and had very flattering comment about the giving block. But like one thing we noticed from the data side of things is really the rise of stablecoin giving, and something that is, I think, making crypto philanthropy a lot more accessible and digestible, because when you think of a stablecoin, it's a one-to-one equivalent asset. It doesn't have volatility risk. It takes out a lot of the maybe question marks that folks who are considering accepting crypto or want to leverage crypto that they may have. Does I guess your perspective show that shift in behavior? I know RLUSD is something that's very topical from the Ripple side of the house. Maybe we'll start with you, and then I would love to follow up with you, Alex, after the fact.
It's something I'm hearing more often. I'm definitely hearing more comfort with stablecoins from some nonprofit partners, especially those who are new to crypto, or just fundraisers and nonprofit professionals who I'm just having conversations with and asking them about this. Some of that's pretty obvious, right? It's like it's less mysterious to people, right? They can connect it directly to a dollar amount in a digital payment format. It's not that different from, tap to pay or something along those lines, right? So it's a digital payment. And I know the Giving Block has seen USDC consistently over the last couple of years in the annual reports as a top donated asset. And last year we launched RLUSD, which is our Ripple's stablecoin one-to-one to the US dollar on the XRP ledger and Ethereum. But yeah, I think that these are real game changers for making nonprofit organizations more comfortable with digital assets and with crypto. Removing that volatility is really key. Most organizations that are accepting more complex assets, like let's say stock, they're not holding on to those either. They're generally liquidating a stock when they receive that, and there's good reasons for that, right? They are here they can't risk a donation changing rapidly and that not being used to serve their missions or the beneficiaries or communities that they exist to serve. So that's where I think stablecoins are opening up a new opportunity for experimenting and learning about digital assets. But I think it also goes well beyond, the donation use case, and we're starting to see that. Of course, Ripple offers a stablecoin for fast, secure, cost-effective global payments, right? Cross-border payments, and there's significant applications for that within emerging markets, for financial inclusion, for remittances. One of our close nonprofit partners is Mercy Corps Ventures. It's the impact investing arm of Mercy Corps, the global humanitarian aid or development organization. And we've been partnering with them for, I think, going on 4 or 5 years now. And they have built this portfolio of early stage ventures across Africa, Asia, and Latin America. Many of these are, early stage fintechs that one otherwise, that don't really have access to capital. And so part of what Mercy Corps Ventures is doing is identifying them, and we get to partner with them on that. But many of those fintechs are using stablecoins within their own products, and they're using that to offer other small businesses a cross-border payments service, to help people with remittances, to use it as a savings tool against inflation. And then we're also seeing it used to help deliver humanitarian aid, right? There's transparency and traceability, there's speed, there's the ability to claw back. There's a lot of applications here that go well beyond just philanthropy. And we actually have a pilot entering its second phase right now with Mercy Corps Ventures that's taking place in Kenya, where RLUSD is powering essentially insurance, parametric insurance. So it's both an insurance and financial inclusion pilot and a anticipatory aid delivery. So the RLUSD, the stablecoins, are held in a pool, and there are farmers who are onboarded through a microfinance partner. And if satellite data confirms that a drought, or in the next phase, a flood or heavy rains rather are going to take place, those payouts are triggered automatically. So you're using smart contracts, so there's no bias, there's satellite data, and then you have the instant processing of a stablecoin to deliver those funds. So there's some really, I think, exciting use cases and applications for stablecoins that go well beyond philanthropy.
Yeah, it's super impactful technology. We see it on the payment side as probably the number one topic that most payments companies are discussing, is like, how do we really get into the next generation of technology? And money is interacting with every commercial transaction. So when you think about all the net positive good that it can do in the world, not just for me buying, something from the store, I think it extends a lot more in the minds of folks that are maybe more mission oriented. Alex, stablecoins, are they demystifying some of the crypto philanthropy on your end, or how do you guys think about it?
Yeah, I would say two things. One, just endorse what Jonathan mentioned. I mean, if you think about it from the perspective of a nonprofit leader who has a board to report to and an audit committee, it just makes it that much easier and that much smoother to have that one-to-one relationship. But there's another lens that I think is actually quite important to us, and I imagine to other nonprofits as well, which is about expansion of audience. So I realize I'm probably the person on this panel with the least amount of insight, but I'll make a guess anyway, that just in terms of consumer segments for the use of crypto, I would guess and imagine that stable coins do open up new segments of potential users, potential consumers, for whom the volatility of some of the older and other options are a turnoff. We're always perennially on a hunt to expand our own donor base, and we're always looking for more new untapped segments of donors. And so actually that's an overlap that maybe is even more important to us, which is, is this an avenue that allows us to tap into a new pool of donors because they're more comfortable with this, and if they care about education, then hey, they should pay attention to DonorsChoose, and we have a way for them to give. It's already baked in.
It's honestly the perfect segue into my next question, because one thing we say at the Giving Block and in general is that crypto is oftentimes a bridge to that younger demographic or that maybe more newly wealthy donor, for example. And so we've definitely seen that over the years. One thing I wanted to stress or touch on, you can let me know if my assumption is correct here, but it does feel like, in what I've read and what I've heard, teachers in particular are facing a bit of a budget crunch. Resourcing is not as, let's just say, available as it maybe has been historically. Do you think I would say, marriage of crypto philanthropy with the current setting is helping to bridge the gap? Have you seen anything materialize from that? And maybe also, where can crypto donors continue to engage and help out?
Yeah. So your take is right. First, let me just underscore that there is a big gap. I mean, teaching has always been hard. I was a public school teacher as well. I taught sixth grade math and science and high school math. And those in your audience who either have been, or know public school teachers know, for the most part, when you become a teacher, you kind of have a classroom and it's pretty blank. And then everything that you want to do with kids, I mean, there are some basics there, but often your aspirations are not matched with the resources that are immediately available. So you're always looking for stuff. So teachers are always spending out of pocket quite a lot. In fact, our research is even teachers on DonorsChoose who are getting support through DonorsChoose are still additionally going out of their pocket to the tune of about $700 a year, in addition to what they get through DonorsChoose to meet their kids' needs. About half of teachers, again, on DonorsChoose, and these are teachers that are going above and beyond, are working a second job. And so, to make ends meet and also to meet the needs of their kids again. And so definitely the need is there. And, one more asterisk, the job of being a teacher has only gotten harder over the last few years as new demands and new responsibilities have been added. So there's a lot of work to do. We do think of crypto and technology in particular as being a bridge into new donors to bring that needed support in. Really, any resource that comes in, if we can reduce the friction and just make it easier for a person who cares about education, who had a good experience in their childhood and wants to maybe pay that forward, if we can make it easy, the need is definitely there.
Yeah, I mean, I was just thinking about this as you were answering, which is that I think when you're an adolescent, I mean, this is maybe obvious, but it's just kind of hitting me in the face right now. It's like the number one place you spend time outside of the home as a kid, right, is at school.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, this is where folks are.
Huge amount of growth and development. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think we can all think fondly of a teacher who went above and beyond and had that impact on your personal life, or made you excited about a topic that you never, maybe you thought you would have enjoyed. For me, it was like math and science. I was never, inclined in those directions, but you have one good teacher, it gets you, quite, far ahead in life. I did want to ask one question regarding collaborations. I think, Jonathan, from your side, Ripple is maybe planting a flag as a leader in the industry and showing how crypto philanthropy can be done well. Alix, you're, similarly on the recipient side, showing that it isn't this scary necessarily, circumstance, maybe a little intimidating to steward such a large gift. Maybe a good problem to have. You can tell us if not. But over the next couple of years, as you look at the future, I mean, we talk on the show about the crypto market and just the amount of growth and maturity it's had over the last even 24 months. You see that trend continuing in each of your respective fields? Maybe we'll start with you, Jonathan, and I'd love to hear how you think about it for the future as well.
Yeah, I think I certainly do think it's going to continue. And, one, just thinking about crypto and blockchain, I mean, I'll touch a little bit on what Alix said about, this bridge to new audiences and new opportunities and donors. And, because I think where crypto is right now is it's different than fiat donations, than cash donations, right? And so that might seem like an obvious statement, but what I mean by that is you're not necessarily opening up by putting a giving block widget on your on your platform, your nonprofit's website, or doing a crypto fundraising campaign, you're not necessarily opening up the door to a bunch of small donors who are all going to donate small amounts of cryptocurrency that just never unlocked before. But I think what you actually are doing is opening up this opportunity for one of these large donations to come across, right? And I think the Giving Blocks report from last year, and the average donation was almost $11,000 in crypto versus much smaller for cash. And you mentioned the Team Water campaign that's going on with Mr. Beast. I think last I checked, there's 6 million in crypto that has been donated through that, right? So you're opening up this opportunity to find that one person who has an extra Bitcoin laying around that they want to donate, or a bunch of ETH, right? Or a bunch of XRP or RLUSD. So you've got those kind of opportunities that are opening up the doors for nonprofits. And then in terms of collaborations, I mean, I think for Ripple, the big thing here is, one, first and foremost, we're always just looking for those partners that have that proven track record of creating measurable, meaningful impact. Drawn to partners like DonorsChoose that are innovative, that are willing to take some risks and try things new for the first time. And our real hope is that that this inspires, particularly within the crypto industry, but any other corporate donors, to reach out to the DonorsChoose organizations and other nonprofits, just be inspired to go and make those donations themselves, cash, crypto, stock, whatever it might be, using their resources for good. The more the merrier is is how we feel about this.
Alex, from your side, how do you see the next few years evolving as this intersection becomes more and more, like the Venn diagram becomes a circle, crypto and philanthropy, right?
Yeah, I mean, so very, very optimistic, and I've been in philanthropy for a little while, education and philanthropy, but also it links, frankly, it links to how I think about technology in general. Actually, Pietro, at the beginning of this conversation, you sort of drew an analogy to DonorsChoose. I mean, DonorsChoose was founded in 2000 as a decentralized, transparent, online, peer-to-peer, right, way for individuals to connect with educators. It's even baked in the name, DonorsChoose. And we live in a very complex world. Look, education, especially in the U.S., is quite complex. Policy is complex. So that's true. But what is also true is that people care about kids. People care about students. And if they have a chance to see the power that a well-resourced classroom gives to kids, they respond. So that's also fundamentally true. And the bridge across those two realities can sometimes be technology, just creating the awareness, creating the visibility, and sort of mowing through that complexity, mowing through the friction, and making things a bit frictionless. So the less friction, or the more friction you take away, the more you see people being able to respond. And so that's actually been the core of DonorsChoose as a technological innovation, right? If I can call it that, back in 2000, our history. And so this is a continuation, right? So this is a new way, opens up pathways for new audiences to bring new sources of wealth in. Because that fundamental truth there, is still also the case, that people do respond when they have a chance to. So I'm feeling really optimistic about that. I mean, I'm feeling in particular optimistic, not just about the long run, but also the short term. We'll have some exciting announcements, I think, in the upcoming months to share. So you can stay tuned for that. But it's been really quite a wonderful partnership for DonorsChoose.
It's amazing. I want to say thank you so much for joining us. And in closing here, because I know we're close to time, but wanted to give you each just an opportunity to have a closing word or thought. I know on the show we ask a lot of questions, but maybe not always the perfect ones. So if there's anything we missed, please let our audience know, one, where they can find you, or anything that we maybe didn't cover and you would love to plug or push resources towards. Just a note to the audience, we'll have any links in the show notes so you can follow up. And please, we recommend and encourage you to check out both Ripple and DonorsChoose. But maybe we'll start with you, Jonathan. Anything that is topical on your mind, or where can our audience engage more?
One of the best places, or the best way to learn about Ripple Impact and Ripple's social impact work and programs is our annual impact report, which we published a couple of months ago. The 2024 report takes a look back at all the different partnerships that we had, pilot programs, and research published through the UBRI program. It's a really great source of information about how we partner with different organizations and some of the impact that we've been able to create thanks to those partners. So that's at ripple.com/impact.
And Alex, yourself?
Folks should definitely come to DonorsChoose.org if anything that we talked about today piqued an interest. DonorsChoose.org/ways to give will give them a pathway into giving crypto and highlight our partnership with the Giving Block. But I'll also note, you should come to DonorsChoose even just to browse projects, because that point about being transparent, that's absolutely true. You don't even need an account. You can come on, type the name of your elementary school that you went to or the school down the block, or type in a topic that you're interested in into the search bar, and you can see and read, I think, pretty inspirational stories of teachers going above and beyond for their kids. And frankly, more likely than not, if you look at a funded project, you're likely to see Ripple down there as one of the supporters this year. So also keep an eye out for that.
Amazing. I think everybody could use another venue to find positive stories and impactful mission-driven outcomes that are making a change in the world. So I want to say thank you, Alex. Thank you, Jonathan, for both your continued partnership. And, this is a tectonic shift, I would say, in this announcement and this, program that you guys are collaborating on. And so want to say thank you both very much for joining us on the show. And we look forward to seeing you all next week.